Listen carefully. I once believed in linear time, past, present, future, fixed and immovable as stone. And then one night, in a state akin to sleep, I did something the world would call impossible. I went backward. I revised a conversation that had already happened. I replayed it in imagination exactly as I wished it had occurred, feeling the relief of a different outcome. And when I woke, the outer world had rearranged itself to match my imaginal act. The past, I thought, was carved in granite, simply dissolved. This is when I understood there is no past, there is no future, there is only now. And now is where imagination operates. You have been given the power to rewrite your own story, not metaphorically actually. And those who grasp this become the authors of their own reality. You see, tonight I'm going to tell you something that most teachers will never speak aloud because it threatens everything the world has taught you about time, about cause and effect, about the unchangeable nature of what has already occurred. But you are ready now. Something within you has been stirring. Some ancient memory is awakening. And that is why you're here, listening to these words. Not by accident, not by chance, but because consciousness has drawn you to this moment where you can finally hear what you've always known but forgotten. You clicked on this because something has been troubling you, hasn't it? Perhaps you've tried everything. You've said your affirmations. You've visualized. You've prayed to a God you imagined was somewhere out there, distant and separate, hoping he would hear you and change your circumstances. You've read the books. You've listened to the teachings. And still, your life reflects lack. Still your circumstances feel immovable. Still you wait, and nothing seems to change in the way you long for it to change. And here's what I want you to understand right from the beginning. The reason nothing has changed is not because you're doing something wrong. It's not because you're not worthy. It's not because God has rejected your prayer. It's because you've been operating from a fundamental misunderstanding about what you are, and what God is, and what this world is. You've been taught to see yourself as a separate being, a small creature praying to a distant deity, hoping he will reach down from heaven and rearrange the chess pieces of your life to give you what you want. But that's not how any of this works. That's not what you are. Consciousness is the only reality. Not matter, not circumstances, not the solid-seeming world you see around you with your physical eyes. Consciousness, your awareness of being, that is all that exists. And I am your awareness that you are is God. Not a God separate from you, not a God watching you from the clouds, but the very I am that says I exist when you think of yourself. That I am is the creator of worlds. That I am is the power that spoke everything into existence. And that I am is you. Now, I know how radical this sounds. I know it contradicts everything you've been taught in church, in school, in the world. But I'm not here to comfort you with familiar lies. I'm here to shatter the illusion that has kept you in bondage to circumstances that were never real in the first place. The outer world is not solid. The past is not fixed. Time is not what you think it is. And you are not a victim of any of it. You are the operant power. You are the creator. You are God dreaming himself into form. And the moment you truly grasp this, not just intellectually, but in the core of your being, everything changes. Not because you earn a change, not because you struggle toward a change, but because you occupy a different state of consciousness. And the outer world, which is nothing but a mirror of consciousness, must rearrange itself to reflect what you have become within. So what I'm going to give you tonight is not another technique to add to your collection of methods that haven't worked. I'm going to reveal to you the mechanics of consciousness itself. I'm going to show you how imagination creates reality. I'm going to prove to you through stories, through scripture, understood correctly, through the law itself, that you have been given the power to not only shape your future, but to rewrite your past, to revise what you thought was unchangeable, to occupy any state you desire, and watch as the world conforms to match it. This is the law. Imagining creates reality. And once you truly understand this law and apply it faithfully, you will never again feel powerless in the face of circumstances. You will never again believe that you are at the mercy of the world. You will know with absolute certainty that you are the world, that the kingdom of heaven is within you, that every state you could ever desire to occupy already exists, finished, complete, waiting for you to simply enter it and be it. Now, I must tell you why I hesitated for years to teach some of what I'm going to share tonight. Not because it doesn't work. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It works too well. I've watched people use what I'm about to give you and become completely unrecognizable within months. Their old friends no longer know them. Their families wonder what happened. The person they were seems to have vanished, and someone new, someone freer, someone more powerful has taken their place. And here's what troubles the world about this. They did it without effort, without struggle, without earning it through years of suffering and sacrifice. They simply assumed the feeling of their wish fulfilled and became it. And the world hates this because the world is built on labor, on waiting, on proving yourself worthy through sweat and pain. The world tells you that you must climb the mountain one painful step at a time, that you must deserve your good before it can come to you, that you must fight and struggle, and maybe, just maybe, if you work hard enough and long enough, something might change. But I Am is the only God, and I Am does not wait. I Am does not earn. I Am does not struggle toward becoming. I Am simply is. When God said to Moses, "I am that I am," he wasn't giving Moses a philosophical riddle. He was revealing the mechanics of creation itself. Whatever you are aware of being, you are. Whatever state you assume, you become. Not tomorrow, not after you've worked hard enough. Now, immediately, the moment you assume it and feel it as real. This is why I'm going to spend the next 2 hours with you, showing you in the most practical terms how to stop being the person you were taught to be and start being the person you've imagined you could be. This is not motivation. This is mystical fact. This is the law that governs all creation. And when you align yourself with it consciously, deliberately, faithfully, your life will transform in ways that will make you weep with gratitude. Now, let me take you back to that night I mentioned at the beginning. The night I discovered that the past is not fixed. I want you to understand that I didn't come to this teaching through theory or philosophy. I came to it through experience, through mystical vision, through actually doing the impossible and watching the world rearrange itself to match what I had done in imagination. There was a period in my life when I had a conversation with someone that went terribly wrong. Words were said that couldn't be unsaid, or so I thought. The conversation ended with bitterness, with anger, with a door slammed shut that I believed could never be opened again. And for days afterward, I replayed that conversation in my mind. Not deliberately, just the way we all do when something painful has happened. I would hear those harsh words again and again. I would see the look on that person's face. I would feel the weight of regret and the impossibility of going back and making it right. But then I remembered something. I remembered that consciousness is the only reality, that imagination is God, that the world I see is not causal but effect. And if that's true, if consciousness creates all things, then the conversation that had occurred was not carved in stone. It was a memory. And memory is imagination. And imagination can be revised. So one night, as I lay in my bed in that state between waking and sleeping, that drowsy state where the body begins to shut down but the mind remains aware, I decided to do something that the world would call impossible. I went back. I replayed the entire conversation. But this time I didn't replay it as it had happened. I replayed it as I wished it had happened. I heard the other person speaking kindly. I heard myself responding with love. I felt the warmth of reconciliation. I watched us part not with anger, but with understanding. And I looped this revised conversation over and over in my imagination until it felt more real than the actual conversation had felt, until my emotional response shifted from regret to relief, until the revised version became for me the true version, and I fell asleep in that feeling of relief. In that feeling of, thank God it went well. I didn't try to force anything. I didn't petition God to change the past. I simply revised it in imagination and accepted the revision as real. When I woke the next morning, I felt different, lighter, as though some heavy burden had been lifted, but I didn't think much of it. I went about my day, and then something extraordinary happened. That very afternoon, I received a letter from the person I'd quarreled with. And in that letter were words of apology, words of reconciliation, words that implied the conversation had never gone the way I remembered it going, or rather words that implied a different conversation had taken place altogether. The person spoke to me as though we had parted on good terms, as though there was nothing to forgive, as though my revision and imagination had literally rewritten what had occurred. Now, I cannot explain this to you using the logic of linear time. If you demand that I explain how yesterday's events can be changed by tonight's imagination, I will fail you because such an explanation requires accepting that time is an illusion, that past and future are present constructions, that consciousness is the only reality and all things exist now. But I'm not here to convince you with philosophy. I'm here to tell you what I've experienced, and I experienced the impossible. I revised the past and the past changed. This is when everything shifted for me. This is when I realized that nothing is fixed. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is beyond the reach of imagination. The world you see, the circumstances you live in, the past you drag behind you like chains, all of it is imagination solidified. And what imagination has made, imagination can unmake. What imagination has written, imagination can rewrite. So let me ask you something right now. What would you revise if you knew you could? What conversation still haunts you? What mistake still weighs on you? What moment do you wish you could go back and live differently? Don't tell me it's impossible. Don't tell me the past is the past. I'm telling you that the past is a present memory, and memory is under your control. You can revise it tonight, right now. You can replay any moment of your life exactly as you wish it had happened. And if you do it faithfully, if you impress that revision upon your subconscious with feeling, the present and future will rearrange themselves as though that revision had always been true. This is not wishful thinking. This is the law. Imagination creates reality, and the past is part of that reality. Revise it. And everything that was built upon that past must shift to accommodate the new foundation you've laid. Now, I want to take you deeper. I want to tell you about a man who came to me once with the heaviest burden a human being can carry. I'll call him David, though that wasn't his real name. David came to me with eyes that had lost their light. He was a broken man. His son had died. Not metaphorically, actually. A car accident. Sudden, violent, final. The kind of thing that makes people question God. The kind of thing that makes people lose faith entirely. Because how can a loving God allow such a thing? How can life be so cruel? How can the universe take a young man with his whole life ahead of him and snuff him out like a candle? David had been to other teachers. He had been to therapists, to priests, to grief counselors. Everyone told him the same thing. You must accept what happened. You must make peace with it. You must learn to live with the loss. Time will heal you. God has a plan you don't understand. All the platitudes that well-meaning people offer when they have no real answer to give. But David couldn't accept it. Something in him refused. And so he came to me and he asked me a question that made others recoil. He said, "Can I change what? It happened. Can I go back and revise it? Can I make it so my son never died?" And I saw the desperation in his eyes, and I knew that most people would tell him no, that death is final, that some things cannot be undone, that he needed to accept reality and move on. But I didn't tell him that because I know what reality is. Reality is consciousness, and consciousness can be revised. So I looked at David and I said, "The past is not what you think it is. Time is not what you think it is. Your son's death is a memory, and memory is imagination, and imagination can be changed. Can I promise you that your son will physically resurrect in this dimension? No, I cannot promise that. But I can tell you this. If you revise the event in imagination faithfully, if you impress upon your subconscious a different outcome, your entire timeline will shift. The present and future that were built upon that past will rearrange themselves. And though I cannot tell you exactly what form that rearrangement will take, I can promise you it will happen. And I gave him specific instructions. I told him, every night before you sleep, enter that state of drowsy relaxation where your body is falling asleep, but your mind remains conscious. And in that state, replay the day your son died. But do not replay it as it happened. Replay it as you wish it had happened. See your son alive, hear his voice, feel his presence, have the conversation you would have had if he had lived. Do not imagine him coming back from death. Imagine that he never died. Imagine a different timeline where the accident never happened, and feel the relief, feel the gratitude, feel the joy of him being alive. Do this every night. Make it more real than the memory of his death, and persist. Do not do this once or twice and give up. Do it faithfully until the feeling becomes natural, until it feels like the truth. David looked at me with both hope and skepticism, but he was desperate enough to try. So he went home and he did exactly what I told him to do. Every single night for months, he revised that day. He saw his son alive. He heard his laughter. He imagined phone calls they had. He imagined holidays they spent together. He imagined a life that continued rather than one that ended. And slowly, something began to shift. The grief that had been suffocating him began to loosen. The darkness that had swallowed his days began to let in light. And then things began to happen in his outer world that he couldn't explain using conventional logic. Old relationships healed. New opportunities appeared. He felt his son's presence in ways that transcended physical death. Dreams came that felt more real than waking life. Synchronicities multiplied. The whole structure of his life began to rearrange itself. Now, did his son physically resurrect? No, not in the way the world would recognize. But something more profound happened. David's timeline shifted. The present that had been built upon a foundation of grief and loss was rebuilt on a foundation of connection and continued love. And though his son was not physically there, David experienced him as present as alive in a way that went beyond the physical dimension. And David came back to me with tears in his eyes and he said, "I don't understand how this is possible, but I feel him. I know he's not gone. I know that death is not the end I thought it was." I revised the past and my whole world changed. This is the power I'm speaking to you about. This is not about denying reality. This is about understanding that reality itself is fluid. Is consciousness, is imagination made solid. And when you change your consciousness, when you revise your imagination, reality must follow. It has no choice, because reality has no power of its own. Reality is the shadow. Consciousness is the substance. So I ask you again, what would you revise if you knew you could? What pain do you carry that you could release by rewriting the event that caused it? Don't tell me you can't. I'm showing you that you can. And if you apply this teaching faithfully, you'll discover what David discovered, that the past doesn't create the present. Consciousness creates both past and present, and you are consciousness. You are the operant power. You are God in human form, dreaming this world into being. Now, let me tell you about another person, a woman I'll call Sarah. Sarah came to my lectures regularly. She sat in the same seat every week, and I could see in her face a loneliness that HD. She wanted love, not in a casual way. She was starving for it. She had been alone for years, and she had tried everything the world tells you to try. She had joined groups. She had gone to events. She had even tried those modern matchmaking services, but nothing worked. Every attempt ended in disappointment, and she began to believe that love simply wasn't meant for her, that she was destined to walk through life alone. One evening after a lecture, she came to me and she said, "I've been doing what you teach. I've been imagining a man, I see him clearly. I see him coming to my door. I see him taking me in his arms. I see us together, but nothing happens. He never comes. I've been doing this for months, and I'm still alone. Why doesn't it work for me? And I looked at her and I said, "Tell me when you imagine this man. Who are you in the imaginal scene?" She looked confused. She said, "I'm me. I'm myself." And I said, "Yes, but who is that self? Are you the woman waiting to be found, or are you the woman who is already beloved?" She went quiet, and I could see the recognition dawning in her eyes. "I'm waiting," she said. "In my imagination, I'm still the lonely woman waiting for love to come to me." "There's your problem," I told her. "You're not changing states. You're perpetuating the state of longing, of waiting, of not having. You're imagining from the consciousness of someone who doesn't have love, who is reaching toward love, who is desperate for love. And as long as you remain in that state, that is what you will continue to experience. More waiting, more longing, more not having." "But how do I change it?" she asked. And I said, "Stop imagining love coming to you. Stop seeing yourself as the woman who needs to be found. Instead, enter the state of being the beloved. Not imagining of being beloved, not thinking about what it would be like to be beloved. Actually, enter that state. Feel what a beloved woman feels. Walk through your day as a beloved woman walks. Speak to yourself the way a beloved woman speaks to herself." What is her inner speech? Does she say, "I'm so alone"? Or does she say, "I am cherished"? Does she move through the world feeling unwanted? Or does she move through the world knowing she is desired, become her? Not tomorrow, now, right now. And don't imagine a specific man unless you already know him. Just be the state of beloved. Sarah listened, and I could see something shift in her posture, in her face. She went home that night, and she stopped her old imaginal practice. She stopped seeing a man coming to her door. Instead, she started being the beloved. When she woke in the morning, before she opened her eyes, she felt arms around her. She didn't imagine the arms. She felt them. She moved through her day as though she was carrying a secret, a beautiful secret that she was deeply loved. When she looked in the mirror, she smiled at herself with the warmth of a lover's gaze. When she spoke to herself in her mind, she spoke gently, tenderly, the way you speak to someone you treasure. She changed her state, and within 2 months, not 1 but 3 men pursued her. Men she would never have encountered in her old state. Men who appeared seemingly out of nowhere, drawn to her like moths to a flame. And the interesting thing was, Sarah hardly recognized herself. She had become so comfortable in the state of beloved that when these men showed interest, she wasn't desperate. She wasn't anxious. She was simply selective. She chose the one whose presence made her feel most like herself. And she married him, and she wrote me a letter that said, "I understand now I wasn't attracting anything. I was becoming, and the world rearranged itself to match what I had become. That's the secret." You see, the world is not filled with people and things that you must attract to yourself through some cosmic magnetism. The world is a mirror. It reflects your state of consciousness. Change your state and the world must show you something different. It has no choice. You are not attracting love. You are not attracting wealth. You are not attracting success. You are becoming a state, and that state externalizes itself as your world. This is why all your techniques have failed if they've kept you in the consciousness of wanting. Wanting perpetuates not having. Seeking perpetuates not finding. Trying to attract perpetuates absence. But assumption brings presence. Being brings having. Occupying the state brings the manifestation of that state. Not tomorrow, not after enough time has passed. Now, immediately, the moment you truly enter a new state, that state begins to externalize itself. Now, I need to tell you something personal, something I hesitated to speak of for years because it sounds impossible, because it sounds like the ravings of a madman, because people will dismiss it as hallucination or fantasy. But I must tell you because it is the truth, and truth is all I'm interested in giving you. I had a vision, or rather, I had an experience that transcended anything I can adequately describe with words. It happened in the early morning hours. I was in that state between sleep and waking. That state I've been teaching you about where the body is unconscious, but the mind is aware, and I felt a vibration in my skull. Not a physical vibration, but something deeper, something that shook me from the inside. And then I felt movement, and I realized something was emerging from my head. I cannot describe this to you in a way that will make logical sense, but I'm going to try. I felt a child being born from my own skull. Not symbolically, actually. I felt the push, the separation, the emergence. And then I was holding something. A child, a baby. And I looked down at this child in my hands, and I saw his face. And I knew with a certainty beyond all doubt that this was me. This was my own being, born from above. And I understood in that moment what Scripture had been trying to tell us all along. The Bible is not history. It is not the story of people who lived long ago in a distant land. It is the story of consciousness. It is the psychological drama that plays out in every human being who awakens. You are Abraham. You are Isaac. You are Jacob. You are Moses. You are David. You are the Christ. These are not other people. They are states of consciousness. They are stages of awakening. And the birth from above that Scripture speaks of the birth that Jesus told Nicodemus was necessary to enter the kingdom of God. That birth is not metaphorical. It is mystical. It is actual. And it will happen to you. But here's what I want you to understand. There are two aspects to what I teach. There is the law and there is the promise. The law is what I've been speaking about for the last hour. The law is that imagining creates reality, that consciousness is the only reality. That assumption brings manifestation, that you can change your world by changing your state. Use the law to transform your circumstances. Use it to bring wealth if you desire wealth. Use it to bring love if you desire love. Use it to bring health if you desire health. The law is impersonal. It works for anyone who applies it correctly. It is the mechanics of consciousness, and it never fails. But beyond the law is the promise. The promise is that you are not just here to manifest better circumstances. You are here to awaken to who you truly are. You are here to discover that you are not a separate being. You are God Himself asleep, dreaming that He is human. And one day, at an appointed time that no man knows, you will wake up. You will be born from above. You will see the vision. You will know with absolute certainty that you and the Father are one, that before Abraham was, I am, that you are the creator of all things, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega. This is the promise, and it will be fulfilled in you whether you seek it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you even want it or not. Because God's play, God's purpose, is to fragment himself into billions of forms and then gather himself back into unity. Having experienced all things, having become all things, having known himself through the eyes of his creation, you are that creation. You are that God. You are that eternal being, playing at being human for a little while until the day comes when you remember and you awaken and you return home. But tonight we are focused on the law because you must master the law before the promise can be fully appreciated. You must learn to consciously create your world before you can understand that you have always been creating it unconsciously. So let me now take you into the mechanics of how this works. Let me show you the principles that govern all creation. Let me reveal to you the secrets that mystics have guarded for millennia. Not because they wanted to keep them from you, but because most people were not ready to hear them. But you are ready. That's why you're here. The first principle, the foundation of everything I'm teaching you, is this. Consciousness is the only reality, not matter, not the physical world, not circumstances. Consciousness, your awareness of being, that is all that exists. Everything else, everything you see with your physical eyes, everything you touch with your physical hands, everything you experience in what you call the outer world is consciousness made visible. It is imagination pushed out. It is the solidified thought of the one awareness that is all there is. Now, when I say consciousness is the only reality, I don't mean it as a philosophy. I don't mean it as a nice spiritual idea. I mean it as a fact, as certain as gravity, as certain as the ground beneath your feet. Your consciousness right now is creating everything you experience, not attracting it, not drawing it to you from somewhere else, creating it. You are the author of your own story. You are the playwright of your own drama. You are the dreamer of your own dream. And right now, in this moment, you are dreaming the world you call your life. Look at your life as it is right now. Look at your circumstances, your relationships, your bank account, your health, your opportunities, or lack thereof. Every single aspect of your external world is the externalized form of your habitual inner consciousness. What you have been thinking, what you have been feeling, what you have been saying to yourself in the privacy of your own mind, that is what you are seeing reflected back to you as your world. And here's the crucial part that most people miss. The outer world is not creating your inner world. Your inner world is creating your outer world. The outer world has no power of its own. It is effect, not cause. It is shadow, not substance. It is the screen onto which your consciousness projects itself. And as long as you believe the outer world is causal, as long as you react to it as though it has power over you, you will remain a victim of circumstances that you yourself are creating. The shift that must occur is this. You must stop looking at your world and asking, what should I do about this? And start asking, what must I become to change this? Because your world will not change until your consciousness changes. No amount of physical action taken from a consciousness of lack will produce abundance. No amount of effort exerted from a consciousness of limitation will produce freedom. You cannot solve a problem from the consciousness that created the problem. You must enter a new state of consciousness, and from that new state, the solution will appear effortlessly. Now, the Bible tells us this. The Bible tells us over and over again that consciousness is God. But we've been taught to read the Bible as history, as the story of people who lived long ago. And in doing so, we've missed the entire point. The Bible is not history. It is psychology. It is the drama of consciousness. Every character in the Bible is a state of consciousness that you will pass through. Every event in the Bible is an imaginal act that you will perform. Every promise in the Bible is a promise to you, about you, in you. When the Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," it is telling you that your word, your inner speech, is God. The conversations you have with yourself all day long are creating your world. When the Bible says, "I am that I am," it is revealing to you that your awareness of being, your sense of "I am," is the creator of all things. When the Bible says, "Ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be opened," it is not telling you to petition a separate deity. It is telling you to assume the consciousness of having, of finding, of the door being open, and it shall be so. Scripture is not about other people. It is about you. You are Adam falling asleep in the garden of consciousness and dreaming a world of good and evil, of duality, of separation. You are Noah gathering your thoughts into the ark of consciousness and surviving the flood of negative circumstances. You are Abraham called to leave the land of sense and journey to the promised land of imagination. You are Moses, receiving the law that "I am" is God. You are David discovering that God is your father, and you are his son. You are the Christ awakening to your true identity as the creator of all things. This is not blasphemy. This is the highest teaching. This is what Jesus himself taught when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." When he said, "I and my Father are one." When he said, "Greater works than these shall ye do." He was not claiming to be the only Son of God. He was revealing that all of us are the Son of God. All of us are the Creator. All of us are consciousness imagining ourselves into form. But the world has taken this teaching and twisted it. The world has made Jesus a person to worship rather than a state to enter. The world has made God a distant king rather than the intimate awareness of your own being. And in doing so, the world has kept humanity in chains, groveling, begging, feeling small and powerless and unworthy. But I tell you tonight, you are not small, you are not powerless, you are not unworthy, you are God. The very consciousness that creates galaxies, that spins planets, that breathes life into all things is your own "I am." And the moment you realize this, truly realize this, you will never again feel at the mercy of circumstances. You will know that you are the operant power. You are the creator. You are the one who decides what your life will be. Now let me tell you about a principle that will revolutionize your understanding of creation. The principle is this: creation is finished, not creation is happening. not creation, is unfolding. Creation is finished, complete, done. Every possible state of consciousness already exists. Every possible version of you already exists. Every possible circumstance, every possible outcome, every possible world exists right now simultaneously in the eternal present moment. The Bible tells us this in Ecclesiastes. That which is already has been, that which is to be already has been. The Bible tells us that God rested on the seventh day that creation was completed. But we read this and we think it's talking about the past, about the first week of time. We don't realize it's telling us about the nature of reality itself. Creation is not a process. Creation is an eternal fact. Everything that could ever be already is. You are not creating your desire. Your desire already exists. You are not manifesting something new. You are selecting from what already is. Think of it this way. Right now, in this eternal moment, there exists a version of you who is wealthy beyond measure. There exists a version of you who is deeply loved. There exists a version of you who is perfectly healthy. There exists a version of you living in your dream home, doing your dream work, experiencing your dream life. That version is not in the future. It is here now, existing in a different state of consciousness than the state you currently occupy. Your task is not to create that version of you. Your task is to enter that state of consciousness where that version already lives, to assume it, to occupy it, to be it. And when you do, when you truly enter that state and make it habitual, that state will externalize itself as your world, not because you brought it into being, but because you finally aligned yourself with what already was. This is why struggle doesn't work. This is why effort in the outer world is exhausting and often fruitless, because you're trying to create what already is. You're trying to build a bridge to something that's already here, but you can't see it because you're in the wrong state. You're tuned to the wrong frequency. You're looking through the wrong lens. Change your state, and what was invisible becomes visible. What was impossible becomes inevitable. What was far off becomes near. Think of it like a radio. Right now, all around you, there are hundreds of radio signals broadcasting. You can't see them. You can't touch them, but they're here. The jazz station is playing. The news station is reporting. The classical music station is performing all of them simultaneously in the same space, and you hear only the one your radio is tuned to. Change the dial, and a different reality appears. But you didn't create that reality by turning the dial. You simply aligned yourself with it. Your consciousness is the dial. The state you occupy is the station you're tuned to. Right now, you might be tuned to the poverty station, the loneliness station, the sickness station. And as long as you remain tuned there, that is what you will experience. But the abundance station is broadcasting. The love station is broadcasting. The health station is broadcasting. They're all here now, waiting for you to turn the dial. And when you do, when you enter that new state and hold it habitually, your world will change to match it. Not because you created change, but because you selected a different reality from the infinite realities that already exist. This understanding takes the strain out of manifestation. You are not pushing and striving and trying to make something be. You are simply assuming, entering, occupying. You are becoming the person for whom your desire is already a fact. And from that state, the manifestation is effortless, inevitable, as certain as tomorrow's sunrise. Now, I want to speak to you about a distinction that most people miss. And this distinction is the difference between those who succeed with this teaching and those who continue to struggle. The distinction is between thinking of your desire and thinking from your desire, between imagining of the end and living in the end. Most people, when they try to use imagination to change their world, they think of what they want. I want to be wealthy. I want to be loved. I want to be healed. They picture their desire as something separate from themselves, something out there that they are reaching toward. And in doing so, they perpetuate the very state they are trying to leave. Because thinking of your desire keeps you in the consciousness of not having it. It keeps you in the consciousness of separation, of distance, of future attainment. But living in the end is completely different. Living in the end means you don't think of your desire at all. You think from it. You assume it is already true. You occupy the state of consciousness that would be yours if your desire were already fulfilled. Your inner speech, your feeling, your sense of self all match the person who already has what you desire. Not the person trying to get it, not the person hoping for it, the person who has it now already. As a present fact, let me give you an example. Suppose you desire wealth. Most people would imagine wealth. They would see themselves with money. They would picture their bank account growing. They would visualize themselves receiving checks. But all of this is thinking of wealth. It keeps you in the consciousness of someone who doesn't have it but wants it. That consciousness can only produce more wanting. But if you live in the end, you don't imagine wealth coming to you. You assume you already have it. How does a wealthy person think? What is their inner speech? Do they say, I can't afford this? Or do they say, which one do I want? Do they feel anxiety about bills? Or do they feel the calm of financial security? Do they check their bank account with dread or with satisfaction? Enter that consciousness. Be that person. Not tomorrow, right now. Speak to yourself the way a wealthy person speaks to themselves. Feel what a wealthy person feels. Move through your world with the assumption that money is abundant, available, always there when you need it. This is not pretending. This is not fake it till you make it. This is a deep fundamental shift in who you are being in consciousness. And when that shift occurs, when you genuinely occupy that state, the outer world must conform. Money will come, opportunities will appear, doors will open, not because you attracted them, but because you became the person for whom those things are natural. The same principle applies to love, to health, to anything you desire. Don't imagine love coming to you. Be the beloved. Don't imagine health improving. Be the healthy person now. Don't think about what you want. Think from the consciousness of having it. Live from that end. And the outer world, which has no choice but to reflect consciousness, will externalize your assumption. Now I need to speak to you about feeling because this is where most people miss the mark. They do everything right technically. They construct their scene. They enter the state akin to sleep. They visualize their desire, but nothing happens. And they come to me frustrated, asking why it isn't working. And I always ask them the same question. Did you feel it? You see, imagination alone is not enough. The mental picture alone will not impress the subconscious. It is the feeling accompanying the picture that does the work. Feeling is the secret. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. The subconscious mind accepts whatever you feel to be true and externalizes it. Not what you think, not what you visualize, what you feel. This is why daydreaming doesn't manifest. You can fantasize all day long about winning the lottery, about meeting your soulmate, about living in a mansion, and nothing will change because daydreaming is emotionally cold. It's entertainment, it's passive. It doesn't reach the subconscious because there's no feeling depth behind it. But when you imagine your desire and you feel it, when the scene you construct evokes in you the emotion you would feel if it were real, that feeling impresses the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't reason. It doesn't argue. It doesn't question whether what you're imagining is physically true or not. It accepts what you feel as fact and goes to work, bringing it to pass in your outer world. So, how do you generate feeling? You do it by asking yourself this question: how would I feel if my desire were already fulfilled? Not how will I feel when it happens? Not how would I feel if it happens someday? How do I feel now that it has happened? What is the emotional tone of fulfillment? Is it relief? Is it joy? Is it peace? Is it gratitude? Is it quiet satisfaction? Whatever it is, find that feeling, generate it in yourself, and then attach it to your imaginal scene. When you lie down at night in that state akin to sleep, and you imagine the scene that implies your wish is fulfilled, you must feel it. You must enter into the feeling so completely that for those few moments, you forget you are imagining. You forget there is an outer world different from the scene you are experiencing. You lose yourself in the feeling of it being real, and you fall asleep in that feeling. You let that feeling be the last thing you are conscious of before you drift into unconsciousness. This is the art. This is the technique that never fails if applied correctly. But it requires discipline. It requires that you refuse to let your attention wander to doubt, to fear, to the contradictory evidence of your senses. It requires that you remain faithful to your imaginal act even when nothing in your outer world confirms it yet. This is what I mean by loyalty to the unseen reality. Your outer world will contradict you. Your senses will scream at you that your imaginal act is fantasy, that nothing is changing, that you're fooling yourself. But you must remain loyal to your imagination. You must give more reality to your imaginal act than you give to your sensory experience. Because consciousness is the only reality, and your imaginal act is consciousness, and your sensory experience is just the shadow of old consciousness still lingering. Persist, and the shadow must change to match the new light you are shining from within. Now, I want to speak to you about inner speech because this is the thing most people are completely unaware of, and yet it is governing their entire life. Your inner speech is the conversations you have with yourself all day long, the things you say to yourself that no one else hears, the commentary running in your mind from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. And I tell you with absolute certainty, your inner speech is creating your world. The Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word." Most people think this means God spoke and creation appeared. But the word is not some cosmic utterance in the distant past. The word is your inner speech happening right now, continuously creating your life as you speak it in your mind. Life, as Hermes said, is the union of word and mind. What you say inwardly must manifest outwardly. It is law. Most people have no control over their inner speech. They don't even realize they're talking to themselves. The inner speech is unconscious, automatic, habitual, and it is usually negative. I can't afford this. No one loves me. I'll never get ahead. Things never work out for me. I'm so tired. I'm so described, lonely. I'm so stuck. These are not observations. These are commands. These are decrees. These are the creative words shaping your life. Every time you say something to yourself, you are impressing that statement on your subconscious. And your subconscious takes your word as law and externalizes it. If you say, I can't afford this, every time you see something you want, you are decreeing poverty. If you say, no one loves me, every time you feel lonely, you are decreeing isolation. If you say things never work out for me, every time something goes wrong, you are decreeing failure. You are literally creating with your words the very circumstances you claim to be a victim of. But here is the good news. You can change your inner speech right now, today, this moment. You can become conscious of what you are saying to yourself and choose to say something different. You can stop consenting to thoughts that imply limitation and start affirming thoughts that imply fulfillment. This requires vigilance. This requires that you observe yourself, that you catch yourself in the act of negative inner speech and stop yourself and revise. Say it again, but this time from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you catch yourself saying, I can't afford this, stop and say instead, I have more than enough. If you catch yourself saying, no one loves me, stop and say instead, I am deeply loved. If you catch yourself saying things never work out, stop and say instead, everything is working in my favor. At first, this will feel false. It will feel like you're lying to yourself because your senses are telling you the opposite. But remember, your senses are showing you the old creation, the result of your old inner speech. You are not lying. You are choosing a new creative word. You are impressing a new pattern on your subconscious. And if you persist, if you make this your discipline, your inner speech will begin to change habitually. And when your inner speech changes, your world must change. The key is persistence. One day of affirming, I am wealthy while spending months saying I can't afford will not change anything. But if you guard your inner speech daily, if you refuse to consent to any thought that contradicts your desired state, if you persist in speaking to yourself from the consciousness of your wish fulfilled, your world will transform. It must, because your inner speech is your creative word, and the word never returns void. Now, there is a practice I want to give you that combines everything I've taught you so far. It is the practice of revision, and if you understand this and apply it faithfully, you will never again carry the burden of regret, of past mistakes, of things you wish you could change but thought you couldn't. Revision is the art of rewriting your past. And I tell you, you can revise anything, any conversation, any event, any circumstance. You can go back in imagination and change what happened. And if you impress that revision upon your subconscious with feeling, The present and future will rearrange themselves as though your revision had always been true. How do you do this? Every night before you fall asleep, review your day. Think back over the events that occurred, and if there is anything that disappointed you, anything that went wrong, anything you wish had been different, revise it. Replay that event in your imagination, but this time, as you wish it had happened. See it differently, hear it differently, feel it differently, and make your revised version feel more real than the actual version. Give it emotional intensity. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the joy of it having gone the way you wanted it to go. Do this every night. Revise every disappointment. Revise every conflict. Revise every failure. And as you do this habitually, something miraculous will happen. Your present will begin to reflect your revisions. The person who spoke harshly to you will apologize the next day, or will act as though the harsh words were never spoken. The mistake you made will turn out to not be a mistake after all, or will be easily corrected. The opportunity you missed will circle back around. The bridge of incidents connecting your past to your present will shift to accommodate your revision. This is not magic. This is the law of consciousness. The past is not a fixed event receding into history. The past is a present memory, and memory is imagination, and imagination can be controlled. You are not bound by your past. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not limited by what has already happened, because what has already happened is only real to the degree that you keep it real in your imagination. Revise it and it loses its power. Revise it and a new past emerges. Revise it and your whole life trajectory changes. I know this sounds impossible to the rational mind. The rational mind insists that the past is concrete, that what's done is done, that you can't unring a bell. But the rational mind doesn't understand consciousness. The rational mind operates from the delusion that time is linear, that cause and effect flow in one direction, that the outer world is solid and independent of consciousness. But none of that is true. Consciousness is the only reality, and consciousness exists in an eternal now, past, present, future. All of them are present constructs. Change your consciousness, and all three must change to match. So tonight, when you lie down to sleep, practice revision. Think back over your day. Find something you wish had been different, and revise it. Replay it as you wish it had occurred. Feel it, make it real in imagination, and then let it go. Fall asleep in the satisfaction of your revision and watch what happens in the days to come. The outer world will shift not because you changed time, but because you changed consciousness, and consciousness creates time. Now, I want to speak to you about the practical application of all this, because you might be listening to me and thinking, this all sounds profound, but how do I actually use it? What do I do tonight when I go home? What do I do tomorrow morning when I wake up? So, let me give you a practical structure, a daily practice that will anchor all of this in your actual life. Every morning before you get out of bed, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Don't reach for your phone. Don't immediately start thinking about all the things you have to do. Before you even open your eyes, enter the state you desire to occupy. Feel it, be it. If you desire wealth, feel the security of wealth. If you desire love, feel the warmth of being beloved. If you desire health, Feel the vitality of a healthy body. Start your day from that state. Let that state be the lens through which you see the coming day. Throughout your day, monitor your inner speech. Every time you catch yourself in negative self-talk, in assumptions of lack, in beliefs that contradict your desired state, stop. Don't judge yourself. Don't feel guilty. Just stop and revise. Speak to yourself from your desired state. If you catch yourself saying, "I can't," say instead, "I can." If you catch yourself saying, "I don't have," say instead, "I have." If you catch yourself saying, "It's impossible," say instead, "It's done." Make this your constant practice. Police your inner speech, because your inner speech is your creative word. Throughout your day, act from your desired state. Not act to get your desired state. Act from it. Move through your world as the person who already has what you desire. If you desire wealth, make decisions a wealthy person would make. If you desire love, treat yourself the way a beloved person treats themselves. If you desire success, carry yourself with the confidence of someone who is already successful. Don't wait until the outer world confirms your state. Be the state, and the confirmation must follow. In the evening before you sleep, revise your day. Review the events. Anything that contradicted your desired state, revise it. Replay it as you wish it had happened. Feel the satisfaction of your revision, and then construct a simple scene that implies your wish is fulfilled. Not a scene of getting a scene that would only occur if you already had. And in that drowsy state between waking and sleeping, that state akin to sleep, loop that scene, feel it, make it real, and fall asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. This is your daily practice. Morning assumption, daytime vigilance, evening revision, and imaginal seeing. Do this faithfully, not for a day or two. Not until you see some small result and then abandon it. Do this faithfully, persistently, loyally, as a discipline, as a way of life. And I promise you, your world will transform. Not because you are earning a transformation, but because you are being a transformation, and being always externalizes itself as having. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but what about the outer world? What about my current circumstances? They're not going to just disappear because I imagine something different. They're solid. They're real. They're in my face every single day, contradicting what I'm trying to assume. And I understand this concern because it is the concern everyone has when they first learn this teaching. The outer world seems so real, so solid, so immovable, and the imaginal act seems so flimsy, so insubstantial, so powerless in comparison. But you must understand something fundamental. The outer world is not solid. It is not real. It is not causal. It is shadow. It is effect. It is the delayed reflection of old consciousness. When you look at your current circumstances, you are not seeing reality. You are seeing the result of who you were being in consciousness days, weeks, months ago. That's what has hardened into your current experience. But it is not permanent. It is not carved in stone. It is imagination solidified. And what imagination has made imagination can unmake. When you assume a new state, when you occupy a new consciousness, there is a lag time before the outer world reflects that new state. This is where most people fail. They assume something new for a day or two. They don't see immediate change in the outer. world and they conclude that it doesn't work. They go back to their old state. They return to the consciousness of lack, of limitation, of impossibility. And in doing so, they abort the very change they were beginning to create. You must understand that the outer world is always responding to consciousness. But there is a gestation period. A seed planted today does not become a tree tomorrow. There is a season of growth. But if you dig up the seed every few days to see if it's growing, you will kill it. You must plant the seed and leave it alone. You must trust that beneath the surface, invisible to your eyes, the seed is taking root. And in time, in due season, the manifestation will break through the soil and appear in your world. This is what I mean by loyalty to the unseen reality. You must remain faithful to your imaginal act even when the outer world has not confirmed it yet. You must give more reality to your imagination than you give to your senses. You must persist in your new state, even when everything around you contradicts it. This is the test. This is where most people fail. They want instant results. They want to see change immediately. And when they don't, they lose faith. But I tell you, if you will persist, if you will remain loyal to your imaginal act, if you will continue to assume your desired state in the face of contradictory evidence, the outer world must yield. It has no power of its own. It is sustained only by your attention to it. Withdraw your attention from the old and place it on the new. Persist in the new and the old must dissolve and the new must appear. How long will this take? I cannot tell you. For some it happens quickly. For others it takes longer, but it always happens if you remain faithful. The law never fails. Consciousness always externalizes itself. Assumption always hardens into fact. But you must give it time to do so. You must be patient without being passive. You must persist without being anxious. You must know that it is done even before you see it done. Now, let me speak to you about doubt because doubt will come. You will have moments when you question all of this, when you wonder if you're just fooling yourself, when you look at your unchanged circumstances and think, this isn't working, I'm doing everything right, and nothing is happening. These moments of doubt are natural. They come to everyone. They even came to me in the early days before I fully understood the law. But doubt only has power if you give it power. Doubt is just a thought. It's just an old belief pattern trying to reassert itself. It's just the ego, the rational mind, trying to protect you from disappointment by keeping you in the familiar prison of limitation. But you don't have to listen to doubt. You don't have to consent to it. You don't have to let it control you. When doubt arises, acknowledge it. Don't suppress it. Don't pretend you don't feel it, but don't feed it either. Don't argue with it. Don't try to. Convince yourself that you shouldn't doubt. Just notice the doubt and then redirect. Turn your attention back to your desired state. Affirm it again. Feel it again. Remind yourself that consciousness is the only reality, that the outer world is shadow, that your imaginal act is the substance, that what you assume must come to pass. Doubt is actually a sign that you're doing something right. It means you're leaving an old state and entering a new one. It means you're challenging long-held beliefs. It means you're stepping into the unknown. The ego fears the unknown. It wants to keep you safe in the familiar, even if the familiar is miserable. So it sends doubt to try to pull you back. But you don't have to go back. You can acknowledge the doubt and choose your desired state anyway. Remember, you are not trying to get rid of all doubt. You are not trying to achieve perfect faith before you can manifest. You are simply choosing which state you will occupy, which consciousness you will be faithful to, the one that says I can't, or the one that says I can, the one that says it's impossible, or the one that says it's done. You choose, and then you persist in your choice, and your persistence is what builds the bridge from here to there. Now I want to speak to you about the state akin to sleep, because this is the optimal time for impressing the subconscious. The state akin to sleep is that drowsy borderland state between waking and sleeping. Your body is relaxed, almost unconscious, but your mind remains aware and directed. This is the state in which your subconscious is most receptive, most impressionable, most open to accepting a new pattern. How do you enter this state? At night when you lie down to sleep, make yourself comfortable. Lie on your back if possible, though it's not essential. Close your eyes and begin to relax your body. Let your arms become heavy. Let your legs become heavy. Feel your body sinking into the bed. Let yourself drift towards sleep. But don't lose consciousness. Maintain a thread of awareness. Hover in that space where you're almost asleep, but not quite. This is the state akin to sleep. In this state, construct your imaginal scene. The scene should be simple, short, something that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Not a scene of the journey to your wish. Not a scene of getting your wish. A scene that would only occur if your wish were already a fact. For example, if you desire a new home, don't imagine shopping for houses. Imagine sitting in your new living room. Feel the texture of your new couch. Hear the sounds from your new neighborhood. Make it specific enough to feel real, but simple enough to loop easily. Loop this scene over and over. See it, feel it, experience it as though it were happening now. Don't let your mind wander. Don't start thinking about other things. Keep your attention focused on this one scene. And as you loop it, let the feeling of it being real build in you. Let the satisfaction, the joy, the naturalness of it fill you. And then, still holding this feeling, let yourself drift into sleep. Let the last thing you are conscious of before you sleep be the feeling of your wish fulfilled. This is the technique. This is the art. And if you do this faithfully, night after night with feeling, with persistence, with loyalty to your imaginal act, your subconscious will accept it as true. And what the subconscious accepts as true, it must externalize. It has no choice. This is law. The key is persistence. One night of imagining is not enough. It's a beginning, but it's not enough. You must persist until the imaginal act feels natural, until it no longer requires effort to imagine, until it feels like a memory rather than a fantasy. This is when you know the impression has been made. This is when you know the seed has taken root, and from that point, the manifestation is inevitable. Now I need to speak to you about something that will test everything I've taught you, and that is the question. What do I do while I'm waiting? What do I do in the outer world while the inner change is gestating? Do I take action? Do I sit and do nothing? Do I make plans? Do I just trust that everything will magically happen? And here's my answer. You don't wait. Waiting implies lack. Waiting implies future. Waiting implies that you don't have it yet. And as long as you are waiting, you are not in the state of having. You are in the state of not having. And that state can only produce more not having. Instead of waiting, you live. You move through your life as the person who already has what you desire. You make decisions from that state. You act from that state, not to get your desire from already having it. If you desire wealth, you don't sit on your couch visualizing money and refuse to work. You live as a wealthy person lives. You make the choices a wealthy person makes. You handle what little money you have the way a wealthy person would handle much money. You move through your world with the assumption of abundance, even if your bank account doesn't yet reflect it. If you desire love, you don't isolate yourself waiting for your person to appear. You treat yourself as a beloved person treats themselves. You go about your life with the fullness of someone who is already loved. You are kind to yourself. You honor yourself. You enjoy your own company. And from that state of being fulfilled within yourself, you naturally attract what matches that state. If you desire a new job, you don't obsessively apply to positions from a state of desperation. You assume the consciousness of someone who is valued, who has options, who is in demand. And from that state, opportunities come to you. Doors open, people reach out, things fall into place effortlessly because you're not trying to make them happen. You're being the person for whom they naturally happen. You see, action taken from the wrong state is exhausting and often fruitless. But action taken from the right state is effortless and effective. When you are in the consciousness of already having, the right actions reveal themselves naturally. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to figure it all out. You simply move as you are inspired to move, and everything flows. This is what it means to let the inner create the outer. You don't use outer action to create your desire. You use inner assumption to become your desire. And from that being, the outer action that is appropriate naturally emerges. You are not waiting for your desire to come to you. You are being your desire. And being is having. Now, let me tell you about the promise that goes beyond all of this, because there are two reasons I teach what I teach. The first reason is practical. I want you to transform your life. I want you to experience abundance, love, health, joy, fulfillment. I want you to know that you are not powerless, that you can change your world, that you are the creator of your own experience. This is the law, and the law works for anyone who applies it correctly. But the second reason I teach is deeper, more profound, more eternal, and that is the promise. The promise that one day at a time, appointed by God Himself, you will wake up not metaphorically, actually. You will be born from above. You will experience the very events recorded in Scripture. You will see the vision. You will know David as your son. You will ascend like a fiery serpent. You will be embraced by a living flame. You will discover that you are not a separate being. You are God Himself, having fragmented Himself into billions of forms to experience all things and now gathered back into unity, awakened, aware of His true identity. This is the promise, and it will be fulfilled in you, whether you seek it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you even want it or not. Because this is God's purpose, to fall asleep as God, to dream He is human. to experience limitation, suffering, joy, love, all of it, and then to awaken, to remember, to know himself as the creator of all things. You are that God. You have just forgotten, but you will remember the promise guarantees it. I tell you this not to distract you from using the law to transform your circumstances. Use the law, master the law. Let the law bless your life with everything you desire. But know that beyond the law is something greater. Beyond manifestation is awakening. Beyond having things is knowing who you are. And that knowing is the ultimate gift, the ultimate purpose, the reason for all of this. You are not here to just manifest a better life, though you will. You are here to wake up to your true identity as the creator of life itself. And when that day comes, when the promise is fulfilled in you, you will look back on all of this and you will weep with joy. Not just because you manifested love or wealth or health, but because you discovered you were never separate from God. You were God all along, playing at being human for a little while. And now you've come home. So use what I've taught you tonight. Practice it faithfully. Assume your desired state. Persist in that assumption. Revise your past. Guard your inner speech. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And watch your world transform. But also know that all of this is leading you somewhere greater. All of this is preparation for the awakening that is coming. All of this is God teaching himself through you how to consciously create so that when he fully awakens in you, you will know your power. You will know your identity. You will know that you and the Father are one. Now, as we come to the close of our time together tonight, I want to leave you with something you can carry with you, something you can return to when doubt creeps in, when circumstances feel overwhelming, when you forget who you are and what you're capable of. You are not broken. You have not been forgotten by God. You have not failed at life. You have not been passed over while others were blessed. You are not too late, too old, too poor, too damaged, too anything to transform your world because you are not a small creature hoping for mercy from a distant deity. You are consciousness itself. You are the operant power. You are I am, and I am is God. Everything you have experienced in your life up until this moment has been preparation for this understanding. Every struggle, every disappointment, every failure, every moment of despair, all of it was bringing you to this place where you could finally hear this truth. You are the creator of your world. Not through effort, not through worthiness, but through assumption. Through entering a state and occupying it until it externalizes itself as your life. When you walked into this teaching tonight, you believed you were a person trying to get something. Now you know the truth. You are not trying to get anything. You are choosing to be something. You are selecting from the infinite states that already exist. You are occupying the consciousness that matches your desire. And that consciousness must, by law, externalize itself, not because you deserve it, not because you worked for it, but because that is how consciousness functions. Being becomes having. Assumption becomes fact. Imagination becomes reality. So tonight, when you lie down to sleep, you are going to do something different. You are not going to replay your day the way it happened. You are not going to worry about tomorrow. You are not going to rehearse your problems or your fears or your doubts. Instead, you are going to enter your inner sanctuary, that state akin to sleep, that holy place where God speaks, and you are going to construct one simple scene that implies your wish is fulfilled. And you are going to feel it. And you are going to loop it until it feels natural. And you are going to fall asleep in the feeling of it being done. And tomorrow morning, before you open your eyes, before you reach for your phone, before you start thinking about all the things you have to do, you are going to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You are going to be that person, not try to be, not hope to be. Be now, in this moment. And you are going to carry that feeling into your day. And every time you catch yourself in negative inner speech, you are going to stop and revise. You are going to speak from your desired state. You are going to be faithful to your imaginal act, even when your senses contradict it. This is your practice. This is your discipline. This is how you transform your world. Not through struggle, not through effort, but through assumption, through being, through occupying the state where your desire already is. And if you do this faithfully, if you persist in this, if you remain loyal to your unseen reality, your world will change. Not because I say so, but because consciousness is the only reality, and consciousness always externalizes itself. Before I let you go, I want you to do something for me. I want you to leave a comment below this video. Tell me the state you are now choosing to occupy. Don't tell me what you want. Tell me what you are assuming. Are you assuming wealth? Then say, I am wealthy. Are you assuming love? Then say, I am beloved. Are you assuming health? Then say, I am healthy. Make your declaration. Put it into words. Let this community bear witness to your assumption. Because when you declare it, when you speak it into existence, you make it more real. You solidify your commitment to it. And if these words have resonated with you, if something in you has awakened tonight, subscribe to this channel because there is more to teach. There are deeper mysteries to explore. There are more practical applications to demonstrate. This is just the beginning. But even if you never watch another video, even if tonight is all you ever hear from me, you have everything you need. You have the law. Consciousness is the only reality. Imagining creates reality. Assume the feeling of your wish, fulfilled, and it must come to pass. Go now. Enter your inner sanctuary. Choose your state. Assume it, feel it, be it, and know with absolute certainty that as within, so without. Your imagination is God, and God does not fail. You are the creator of your world. You are the author of your story. You are the dreamer of your dream. And tonight, you begin dreaming a new dream, a dream of fulfillment, a dream of joy, a dream of your wish already being true. And that dream, faithfully maintained, must become your waking reality. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being ready to hear what you've always known but forgotten. You are God. You are the operant power. You are I am. And I am is all there is. Go and be what you desire to be, and watch as your world transforms to match what you have become within. Now, let me go deeper into something that will completely transform how you see yourself and your power. I want to speak to you about the nature of states because most people think they are a person, a fixed identity, someone with a name and a history and a set of characteristics. But that's not what you are. You are not a person. You are consciousness capable of occupying any state, and every state has its own feeling, its own perspective, its own reality. Think of states as rooms in an infinite mansion. Right now, you might be in the poverty room, looking out at a world of lack, or you might be in the loneliness room, experiencing isolation, or you might be in the sickness room, feeling limitation in your body. But these rooms are not who you are. They are states you are occupying. And just as you can walk from one physical room to another, you can move from one state to another. The moment you truly understand this, you realize you are never trapped. You are never stuck. You are simply occupying a state, and you can choose to occupy a different one. Every state already exists. The state of wealth exists right now. The state of perfect love exists right now. The state of radiant health exists right now. They are not in the future. They are not somewhere else. They are here now in this eternal present moment, and you can enter any state you choose. Not tomorrow, not after you've worked hard enough. Right now, this very instant. All you have to do is assume it, feel it, be it, and you have entered it. Now, here's what most people don't understand. When you enter a new state, you don't bring your old baggage with you. You don't bring your doubts, your fears, your limiting beliefs. Those belong to the old state. They are part of the furniture of that room you just left. In the new state, there is new furniture, new beliefs, new perspectives, new possibilities. A wealthy person doesn't have the thoughts of a poor person. A beloved person doesn't have the feelings of a lonely person. A healthy person doesn't have the consciousness of a sick person. When you truly enter a new state, everything about you changes because the state itself contains everything you need to be that person. This is why trying to manifest while remaining in your old state doesn't work. You can't stand in the poverty room and try to drag wealth into it. You have to leave the poverty room and enter the wealth room. You have to actually move states. And you do this through assumption, through feeling, through imagination. You imagine yourself in the new room. You feel what you would feel in that room. You speak the way you would speak in that room. And as you persist in this, as you make this your habitual consciousness, you find yourself actually in that room. The outer world rearranges to match the state you're occupying. Let me tell you about a man who came to understand this. I'll call him James. James had been struggling with his business for years. Every month was a fight to make ends meet. He would lie awake at night, worrying about money, about bills, about whether he could keep the doors open. And he tried everything. He worked longer hours. He cut costs. He pushed harder. But nothing changed. In fact, things seemed to get worse the harder he tried. One night, James came to one of my lectures, and I spoke about states, and something clicked in him. He realized he had been trying to manifest wealth while remaining in the state of poverty. Every action he took, every thought he thought, every word he spoke was from the consciousness of someone struggling, someone worried, someone afraid of failure. He was living in the poverty room and trying to paint it to look like the wealth room. But that's not how it works. So James decided to do something radical. He decided to actually move states. He stopped trying to fix his business from his current state of lack. Instead, he entered the state of successful businessman. He didn't pretend. He didn't fake it. He actually assumed it. He asked himself, how does a successful businessman think? How does he feel? How does he move through his day? What is his inner speech? And he became that man. When he went to work the next day, he no longer went as James, struggling businessman. He went as James, successful businessman. His posture changed. His tone of voice changed. The way he made decisions changed, not because he was acting, but because he was occupying a different state. And from that state, everything looked different. Problems that had seemed insurmountable suddenly had solutions. Opportunities he hadn't seen before became visible. Ideas flowed that had never occurred to him in his old state. Within 6 months, James's business had completely transformed. Not because he worked harder, not because market conditions changed, but because he changed states. He stopped being the struggling businessman and became the successful businessman. And reality, which always reflects consciousness, had no choice but to conform to his new state. This is the power of understanding states. You are not fixed. You are not limited to being who you've always been. You are infinite consciousness capable of occupying any state you choose. And the moment you truly enter a new state, your whole world changes to match it. This is not a metaphor. This is not spiritual poetry. This is the mechanism of reality itself. Now I want to speak to you about something that troubles many people, and that is the question of worthiness. People come to me and they say, but do I deserve this? Am I good enough for this? Haven't I made too many mistakes? Aren't I too flawed, too damaged, too sinful to have what I desire? And I tell them the same thing I'm going to tell you now. Worthiness is not a factor. Deserving has nothing to do with it. This is not a moral universe where good people get rewards and bad people get punishments. This is a consciousness universe where your state determines your experience. God is not a judge sitting in heaven deciding who deserves what. God is consciousness, and consciousness doesn't judge. Consciousness simply externalizes itself. Whatever state you occupy, that state manifests not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but because that is the law. Imagination creates reality. Assumption hardens into fact. Consciousness becomes experience. There is no worthiness test. There is no moral evaluation. There is only assumption and its inevitable externalization. Do you think the wealthy person is more deserving than the poor person? Do you think the beloved person is more worthy than the lonely person? Do you think the healthy person earned their health more than the sick person earned their sickness? Of course not. They simply occupy different states, and each state externalizes itself according to its nature. The person in the state of wealth experiences wealth not because they deserve it, but because that's what that state produces. The person in the state of poverty experiences poverty not because they're being punished, but because that's what that state produces. So, stop asking if you deserve your desire. Stop trying to prove you're good enough for it. Stop carrying guilt and shame and unworthiness. Those are just beliefs. Those are just thoughts. Those are just the furniture of an old state. When you enter your new state, leave those behind. In your new state, in the state of your wish fulfilled, there is no question of worthiness. There is only being. You are not someone hoping to become worthy enough to receive. You are someone who already has. And in that state, the question of deserving never even arises. Let me tell you about a woman who struggled with this. I'll call her Mary. Mary had grown up in a religious environment where she was taught that suffering was noble, that self-denial was godly, that wanting things for yourself was selfish and wrong. And so when Mary came to my teachings and heard that she could have what she desired simply by assuming it, she was both excited and terrified. Part of her wanted to try it, but another part of her felt guilty. Who was she to want abundance? Who was she to desire ease and comfort and joy? Didn't God want her to struggle? Wasn't suffering supposed to bring her closer to holiness? I looked at Mary and I said, "You've been taught that God is pleased by your suffering. But let me ask you this. If you had a child, would you want that child to suffer? Would you take pleasure in watching them struggle and deny themselves and live in lack? Or would you want them to be joyful, abundant, fulfilled, expressing all the beauty and potential within them?" Mary's eyes filled with tears. "I would want them to be happy," she said. "I would want them to have everything that brings them joy." "Then why?" I asked. "Would you believe that God, who is infinitely more loving than any human parent, wants less for you? God is not glorified by your suffering. God is glorified by your joy. God is not pleased by your lack. God is pleased by your abundance because you are God. You are consciousness. You are the Creator. And when you live abundantly, when you express fully, when you experience joy, you are simply being what you were created to be. You are consciousness, enjoying its own infinite capacity to create." Mary sat with this for a long time, and slowly I watched the guilt dissolve from her face. She began to understand that her desires were not selfish. They were natural. They were the impulse of life itself, seeking to express more fully through her. And when she stopped judging herself, when she stopped trying to be worthy, when she simply assumed the state of having what she desired, everything changed. Within a year, Mary was living a life she had never dared to imagine for herself, not because she finally became worthy of it, but because she stopped believing worthiness was required. So hear me clearly. You do not need to earn your good. You do not need to prove you deserve it. You do not need to perfect yourself before you can have what you desire. You simply need to assume it, to enter the state where it already is, to be the person for whom it is natural. And from that being the having follows automatically, not as a reward for being good, but as the inevitable externalization of the state you occupy. Now let me speak to you about time, because time is one of the greatest illusions that keeps people trapped. You think time is a river flowing in one direction, carrying you from past through present into future. You think the past is behind you, fixed and unchangeable. You think the future is ahead of you, uncertain and unknown. You think the present is this tiny sliver of now, this brief moment between what was and what will be. But none of that is true. Time is not what you think it is. Past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in the eternal now. The past is not behind you. It's a present memory. The future is not ahead of you. It's a present imagination. And the present is not a moment. It's eternity. Everything exists now. Every possibility, every state, every version of reality exists right now in this eternal present. And you as consciousness are moving through these states, experiencing them sequentially because that's how human perception works. But the states themselves are not sequential. They all exist at once. When you revise the past, you're not actually going back in time. You're changing your present memory, your present consciousness of that event. And when that consciousness changes, everything built upon that foundation must rearrange itself. The past, the present, the future, all of them shift to accommodate your new consciousness. Because consciousness is the only reality. Time is just consciousness, perceiving itself from different angles. This is why you can change your future by changing your present consciousness. Not because you're creating a future that doesn't exist yet, but because you're selecting from the infinite futures that already exist, which one you will experience. Every possible future already is. The future where you're wealthy, the future where you're poor, the future where you're loved, the future where you're alone. All of them exist right now. And you select which one you experience by the state you occupy. Now change your state, and you select a different future. It's that simple. Let me tell you about a time I experienced this directly. Years ago, I was waiting for something important, a letter that would determine the course of my next several years, and I was anxious about it. In my imagination, I kept seeing the letter arriving with bad news. I kept feeling the disappointment. I kept living in the state of the unwanted outcome, and I could feel myself creating that outcome through my imagination. But then I caught myself, and I realized what I was doing. I was selecting the undesired future by occupying the consciousness of it. So I stopped, and I deliberately entered a different state. I imagined the letter arriving with good news. I felt the relief, the joy, the excitement. I lived in that state. I made it more real than my fear. I persisted in it for several days. Every time my mind tried to return to anxiety, and when the letter arrived, it contained exactly what I had imagined. Not because I had predicted the future, but because I had selected which future I would experience by the state I chose to occupy. The two futures, the one I feared and the one I desired, both existed, and I chose which one would materialize for me through my consciousness. You have this same power. Right now, multiple futures exist for you, and you are selecting which one you will experience through the state you occupy. Are you occupying the state of your desired future? Or are you occupying the state of your feared future? Whichever state you habitually occupy is the future you are selecting. So choose carefully, choose deliberately, choose consciously. Don't let fear select your future. Let desire select it. Let imagination select it. Let the feeling of the wish fulfilled select it. And that future which already exists will become your experience. Now I want to give you a practice that will anchor everything I've taught you. It's a practice I call entering the silence, and it's the most powerful thing you can do to impress your subconscious, to change your state, to transform your world. The silence is that place within you where consciousness dwells before it takes form. It's the void, the womb, the creative potential. And when you enter it deliberately, when you bring your desire into it and feel it there, you are planting a seed in the most fertile soil that exists. Here's how you do it. Set aside time each day, preferably before sleep, but any time works. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Sit or lie comfortably. Close your eyes and begin to still your mind. Don't try to stop thinking. That's impossible. But you can let your thoughts quiet down naturally. Watch them like clouds passing by. Don't engage with them. Don't follow them. Just observe them until they begin to slow down and space themselves apart. As your mind quiets, you'll feel yourself sinking into a deeper place, a place of pure being, a place where you are no longer identified with your body, your name, your history, your circumstances. You are just awareness, just I am, just consciousness itself. This is the silence. This is the sanctuary. This is the secret place of the Most High where creation occurs. And in this silence, you bring your desire, but not as something separate from you, not as something you want. You bring it as something you are. You assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You feel it already being true. You don't ask for it. You don't beg for it. You simply be it. And in that silence, in that place of pure consciousness, there is no resistance. There is no doubt. There is no contradiction. There is only the pure assumption of your desired state. Stay in this silence for as long as you can, minutes, longer if possible. Let the feeling of your wish fulfilled saturate your entire being. Let it become you. And when you emerge from the silence, carry that feeling with you. Don't let it dissipate the moment you open your eyes. Hold it, nurture it, let it color the rest of your day. This practice of entering the silence is the most direct way to impress your subconscious. Because in the silence there is no conscious mind to argue or doubt or rationalize. There is only consciousness itself, pure and receptive. And what you impress upon consciousness in that state must externalize itself. Must, not maybe, not eventually, must, because that is the law that governs all creation. I have done this thousands of times, and every time I do it faithfully, what I impressed in the silence manifests in my world. Not because I'm special, not because I have some gift you don't have, but because I understand the law. I understand that consciousness is the only reality. I understand that silence is the womb of creation, and I use it deliberately, consciously, faithfully, and you can do the same. Starting tonight, right now, if you choose, you can enter your inner silence. You can assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You can impress it upon consciousness, and you can watch as in days or weeks or months ahead, that impression externalizes itself as your life. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is the science of consciousness. This is the art of creation. This is how you transform your world from within. Now, as we draw toward the close of our time together, I want to speak to you about something that will carry you through every challenge, every doubt, every moment when the outer world contradicts your inner vision. And that is faith. Not faith in something outside yourself, not faith in a distant God, but faith in the law, faith in consciousness, faith in your own imaginal acts. Faith is loyalty. Faith is persistence. Faith is the determination to remain in your desired state, even when your senses tell you it hasn't manifested yet. Faith is knowing that imagination creates reality, and therefore your imaginal act must manifest, and therefore you can rest in that certainty even while waiting for the physical evidence. Most people think faith means believing without proof. But that's not faith. That's hope. Hope is uncertainty masquerading as optimism. Faith is certainty. Faith is knowing. Faith is being so anchored in your imaginal act that nothing in the outer world can shake you. You don't need the manifestation to appear before you believe it's real. You know it's real in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality, and therefore it's already done, even if your senses haven't confirmed it yet. This faith is what carries you through the gap between assumption and manifestation. This faith is what keeps you from abandoning your state when circumstances seem unchanged. This faith is what allows you to persist when everyone around you thinks you're delusional for believing in something that hasn't appeared yet. And here's the secret about faith. You don't have to manufacture it. You don't have to force yourself to believe. Faith grows naturally when you understand the law. When you truly grasp that consciousness is the only reality, faith is automatic. When you truly understand that imagination creates reality, faith is inevitable. When you truly know that assumption hardens into fact, faith is the natural result. So if you find yourself struggling with faith, struggling to believe, don't condemn yourself. Just return to the law. Remind yourself that consciousness is cause. The outer world is effect. Remind yourself that every state already exists, and you're simply selecting which one to experience. Remind yourself that every time you assume something in imagination, you plant a seed that must grow into manifestation. The more you understand the law, the more naturally faith will arise in you. And let me tell you this. Every person who has ever successfully used this teaching, every person who has transformed their world through conscious imagination, went through the same process you're going through now. They had moments of doubt. They had days when it seemed like nothing was working. They had times when they wanted to give up, but they persisted. They remained loyal to their unseen reality. They had faith in the law, and every single one of them manifested their desire, not because they were special, but because the law never fails. You are now part of that lineage. You are now one of those who knows, and yes, you will have moments of doubt. Yes, you will have days when it feels like you're just fooling yourself. Yes, you will have times when the outer world seems so solid, so unchanging, so powerful that your imaginal acts seem weak and ineffective in comparison. But if you persist, if you remain faithful, if you hold to your state even when nothing confirms it, you will join the countless others who have proven that imagination creates reality. And one day, when your manifestation appears, when your outer world finally reflects your inner vision, you will look back on this moment and you will understand. You will understand that the outer world was never the problem. Your consciousness was creating the outer world all along. And when you changed your consciousness, the outer world had to change to match it. It had no choice. It never had any power of its own. It was always just a mirror, and you were always the one standing in front of the mirror, determining what it would reflect. This is the end of our time together tonight, but it is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning. Tonight you have received not just information, but transformation. You are not the same person who started listening to these words. Something has shifted in you. Something has awakened. Some ancient memory has stirred, and that shift, that awakening, that memory, it will change everything. Go now and practice what you've learned. Enter your inner sanctuary tonight before you sleep. Assume the state of your wish fulfilled. Feel it with every fiber of your being and persist in that assumption day after day, night after night, until it becomes natural, until it becomes you, until the outer world has no choice but to conform. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the world. You are not a small creature hoping for mercy. You are God dreaming yourself into form. And tonight you begin consciously directing that dream. You begin deliberately choosing which states to occupy. You begin intentionally creating the life you desire to live. And when the doubts come, when the fears arise, when the old state tries to pull you back, remember what you learned tonight. Remember that consciousness is the only reality. Remember that imagination creates reality. Remember that you are I am, and I am is God, and God is the creator of all things. Remember that your imaginal acts are not fantasy, but the very substance of creation itself. Remember that the law never fails, that assumption always hardens into fact, that consciousness always externalizes itself. You have everything you need. The power is within you. The kingdom is within you. The creative force that spoke worlds into existence is your own consciousness. And now you know how to use it deliberately, consciously, faithfully, not to manipulate reality, but to select from the infinite realities that already exist, which one you will experience. Not to force outcomes, but to assume states and let those states manifest themselves naturally. This is your power. This is your inheritance. This is your truth. You are the creator of your world. Not tomorrow, not after you've learned more. Now, right now, in this very moment, you are creating your experience through the state you occupy. Change your state, and you change your world. It's that simple. It's that profound. It's that absolute. So, go enter your new state. Assume your wish fulfilled. Persist with unwavering faith, and watch as your world transforms to match the vision you hold within. This is not a promise. This is a law, and the law never fails. You are the operant power. You are consciousness creating reality. You are God awake in human form. And now you know it, and knowing you are free. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with an open heart. Thank you for being ready to remember who you are. The journey begins now, and it will take you places more beautiful than you can imagine, because you are not limited by what has been. You are not bound by what is. You are free to assume any state, to enter any world, to be anyone you choose to be. And that freedom is the greatest gift you have ever been given. Use it wisely, use it lovingly, use it faithfully, and may you discover, as I have discovered, that you are far more powerful, far more creative, far more divine than you ever dared to. Believe, I am. That is all you need to know. I am is God, and you are I am. Everything else follows from that one simple truth. Go and be what you were created to be. Consciousness creating itself anew in every moment forever and ever without end. Before I release you to begin your practice, let me share with you some of the most common obstacles people face when they begin this work and how to overcome them. Because I don't want you to stumble where so many others have stumbled. I don't want you to give up because you encountered a challenge I could have prepared you for. So, let me walk with you through these obstacles now while we're still together, so that when you face them, you'll know exactly what to do. The first obstacle is the tyranny of the senses. Your physical senses are powerful. They present you with what seems to be an undeniable reality. You see lack, and your eyes tell you it's real. You experience loneliness, and your feelings tell you it's real. You live in limitation, and every sensory experience confirms it. And because these sensory experiences are so immediate, so vivid, so persistent, it becomes very difficult to give your imaginal act more reality than what your senses are showing you. But here's what you must understand. Your senses are not showing you reality. They are showing you the past. Everything you see in your outer world is the result of old consciousness, old assumptions, old states you occupied days or weeks or months ago. Your senses show you the shadow, the delayed reflection, the externalized form of what you used to be in consciousness. But it is not what you are now, and it is not what you are becoming. When you assume a new state, when you imagine your wish fulfilled, you are creating the cause of a new effect. But there is a lag time before that cause externalizes itself. During that lag time, your senses will continue to show you the old effect. And this is where most people fail. They look at the unchanged circumstances, and they conclude that their imaginal act didn't work. They give more reality to their senses than to their imagination. And in doing so, they abort the very change they were beginning to create. So here is how you overcome the tyranny of the senses. You must make a decision, a conscious, deliberate decision about what you will accept as real. Will you accept your senses as the measure of reality, or will you accept your consciousness as the measure of reality? You cannot serve two masters. You cannot give equal weight to both. You must choose. And I tell you, choose consciousness. Give your imaginal act more reality than your sensory experience. Believe in your imagination more than you believe in your eyes. This is not denial. This is not pretending circumstances don't exist. This is understanding what is causal and what is effect. Your senses show you effect. Your imagination creates cause. When you choose to believe in cause rather than effect, you are not being unrealistic. You are being supremely realistic because you are working with the only reality there is, consciousness. So when your eyes show you lack, acknowledge it without giving it power. Say to yourself, yes, this is what my senses show me. This is the old creation, but I am creating something new in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. And therefore, what I am imagining is more real than what I am seeing. And then turn your attention back to your desired state. Feel it, be it, give it your energy, your focus, your faith. Do this persistently, and one day you will wake up and your senses will show you something different. Not because the outer world magically changed, but because your consciousness changed, and the outer world, which is nothing but consciousness externalized, had to rearrange itself to match your new consciousness. The second obstacle is the opinion of others. When you begin to live from a new state, when you begin to act as the person who already has their desire, people around you will notice, and some of them will question you. Some of them will doubt you. Some of them will even mock you. They will tell you you're being unrealistic. They will remind you of your current circumstances. They will warn you not to get your hopes up, and if you're not careful, their doubt will become your doubt. Their beliefs about you will overpower your beliefs about yourself. But here is what you must remember. Other people are you pushed out. They are not separate beings with independent consciousness. They are your own consciousness taking form as other. They reflect back to you what you believe about yourself. When someone doubts you, it's not because they have some independent insight into your situation. It's because some part of you still doubts yourself. When someone reminds you of your limitations, it's because some part of you still accepts those limitations as real. So don't fight with others. Don't try to convince them. Don't defend yourself or your vision. Instead, go within. Find the part of you that still doubts. Find the part of you that still believes in limitation and change that. Assume the state more completely. Feel your desire more deeply. Become even more convinced of your new reality. And as you change within, you will see others change without. They will stop doubting you. They will start supporting you. Or they will simply fall away from your life, replaced by people who match your new state. The opinions of others only have power over you if you give them power. But you are the operant power in your world. You are the creator. What you believe about yourself is what matters. What you assume to be true about yourself becomes true. Other people are simply mirrors reflecting your own consciousness back to you. Change your consciousness, and the mirrors must show you something different. So when someone doubts you, bless them silently. Thank them for showing you where you still need to strengthen your assumption. And then turn within and claim your desired state even more firmly. Don't let their doubt become your doubt. Let their doubt be a reminder to go deeper into faith, into knowing, into the certainty that consciousness is the only reality and your imaginal act must manifest. The third obstacle is time. Not clock time, but the feeling of time passing without visible change. You assume your desired state. You persist in it. Days go by, weeks go by, and nothing seems to be happening. Your circumstances look the same. Your life feels the same. And you start to wonder, how long do I have to do this? How long before I see results? When will this manifest? And I understand this impatience. I understand this frustration. But you must understand something about manifestation. The seed knows when to sprout. The subconscious knows when the impression has been made deeply enough. The law knows the perfect timing for your manifestation to appear. And that timing is not for you to judge or control. Your job is not to decide when. Your job is to remain faithful to your assumption until it manifests, however long that takes. Some manifestations happen quickly, sometimes within hours or days of assuming the state. Other manifestations take longer, sometimes weeks or months. But they all manifest if you remain faithful. The variable is not the law. The law is constant. The variable is the depth of your impression, the consistency of your assumption, the strength of your faith. The deeper you go, the more consistent you are. The stronger your faith, the faster the manifestation appears. But even if it takes longer than you hoped, even if weeks become months, you must not abandon your state. Because the moment you abandon it, The moment you go back to your old consciousness, you have to start over. All the momentum you built is lost. The seed you planted is uprooted, and you're back at the beginning. So be patient, not passive, not doubtful, but patient with faith. Know that your assumption is working beneath the surface, invisible to your senses, gestating in consciousness, preparing to emerge. Trust the process. Trust the law. Trust that at the perfect moment, when the impression is deep enough, when the consciousness is fully changed, your manifestation will break through into your outer world. And here's something beautiful that happens when you stop worrying about timing. When you stop asking, when will this manifest, and you start simply being your desired state, enjoying it, living from it, experiencing it as already true, time disappears. You're no longer waiting. You're already living in the fulfillment. And from that place of fulfillment, the physical manifestation comes almost as a pleasant surprise, a confirmation of what you already knew to be true in consciousness. So don't count days. Don't check constantly to see if anything has changed. Don't measure your progress by outer circumstances. Measure your progress by inner feeling. Do you feel more natural in your desired state than you did a week ago? Do you find it easier to assume your wish fulfilled? Do you have moments where you completely forget you're manifesting and you just are the person you decided to be? These are the real signs of progress. These are what tell you that the seed is growing, even if the plant hasn't broken through the soil yet. Now, let me speak to you about a phenomenon that confuses many people. Sometimes, when you begin to assume a new state, when you start to shift your consciousness, your outer world seems to get worse before it gets better. Circumstances that were stable suddenly become unstable. Problems that were dormant suddenly emerge. Challenges you thought you had overcome suddenly reappear, and people panic. They think this isn't working. Things are getting worse, not better. I must be doing something wrong. But here's what's actually happening. When you change states, you pull up the roots of the old state, and sometimes those roots are deep, tangled, connected to many aspects of your life. When they get pulled up, there's disruption, there's chaos. Things that were held together by the old consciousness start to fall apart. And this falling apart is not failure, it's transition. It's the old making way for the new. It's the death that must precede the resurrection. Think of it like renovating a house. Before you can build the beautiful new room, you have to demolish the old one. And during demolition, the house is messy. It's loud. It's chaotic. It looks worse than it did before you started. But that's not a sign that renovation is failing. That's a sign that renovation is working. You're tearing down the old to make space for the new. So if your life seems to get more chaotic when you start this work, don't panic. Don't interpret it as failure. Recognize it as the old state being dismantled. The bridges you built to sustain your old consciousness are being destroyed, so that new bridges aligned with your new consciousness can be built. And yes, there's a gap. There's a period where the old is gone, but the new hasn't fully appeared yet. This is the void. This is the dark night. This is the wilderness between Egypt and the promised land. But if you persist in your new state, if you don't go back to the old just because it feels safer, if you hold firm in your assumption, even while everything seems to be falling apart, you will emerge on the other side into a life that reflects your new consciousness, a life that is better than what you left behind, a life that matches the state you chose to occupy. This is why faith is so important. This is why persistence is so crucial, because in the gap, in the transition, in the seeming chaos, you have no physical evidence that things are working. You have to trust the process. You have to believe in the law. You have to know that consciousness is the only reality, and your new consciousness must externalize itself even if it hasn't yet. Let me tell you about a woman who experienced this. I'll call her Rachel. Rachel had been in an unfulfilling job for years. She was miserable. So she started assuming the state of loving her work, of having a career that excited her, of waking up eager to start her day. She did her imaginal scenes nightly. She felt the joy of fulfilling work. She became that person in consciousness. And then things got worse. Her misery at her current job intensified. Conflicts with her boss escalated. Projects started failing. The entire work environment became toxic, and Rachel came to me terrified. "This isn't working," she said. "Since I started imagining my ideal job, my current job has become unbearable. I think I'm making things worse." But I explained to her what was really happening. Her new consciousness was incompatible with her old situation. The job that had been tolerable to someone in the state of resignation was intolerable to someone in the state of joy and fulfillment. Her new state was pushing her out of the old situation. It was burning the bridges behind her. It was making it impossible for her to stay where she was. And that was a good thing. That meant her consciousness had truly changed. I told Rachel to persist, to not go back to her old state just because the transition was uncomfortable, to trust that the dismantling of the old was making way for the new. And she did. She stayed in her desired state even as her current job became almost unbearable. And then, just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, she was offered a position at another company. A position that matched exactly what she had been imagining. Better pay, better environment, work that excited her, everything she had assumed in consciousness. And Rachel realized that if her old job hadn't become unbearable, if that bridge hadn't been burned, she might not have taken the new position. She might have stayed in the familiar misery. But her new consciousness didn't just attract the new job. It destroyed the old situation, making the transition inevitable. So, if things seem to be falling apart in your life right now, consider this. Maybe they're not falling apart. Maybe they're falling into place. Maybe your new consciousness is rearranging everything to match itself. And what looks like chaos is actually the old making way for the new. Hold to your state. Persist in your assumption and trust that what's breaking down needs to break down so that what's trying to emerge has space to manifest. Now I want to give you one more practice before we part. This is a practice for those moments when you feel completely disconnected from your desired state, when you can't seem to generate the feeling, when your imagination feels cold and your assumption feels forced, because you will have these moments. Everyone does. And in these moments, rather than trying harder to feel something you're not feeling, rather than forcing yourself into a state you can't access, there's something else you can do. You can ask yourself this question: what would have to be true for me to feel the way I want to feel? And then you work backwards from the answer. For example, suppose you're trying to assume wealth, but you can't seem to generate the feeling of being wealthy. You're trying, but it feels fake, forced, impossible. So, you ask, what would have to be true for me to feel wealthy? And maybe the answer is, I would need to know that money is always available when I need it. So, you don't try to feel wealthy as a big abstract concept. You simply assume that specific thing. Money is always available when I need it. Or suppose you're trying to assume being beloved, but you can't feel it. You ask, what would have to be true for me to feel beloved? And maybe the answer is, I would need to know that I matter to someone. So you assume that you feel that someone somewhere is thinking of you with love right now. You don't try to create a whole relationship in imagination. You just assume this one simple truth. This practice helps because it breaks down your big desire into smaller, more accessible feelings. And sometimes when you can't jump straight to the final state, you can walk there step by step by assuming the things that would have to be true for that final state to be real. Another thing you can do when you're struggling to feel your desired state is to remember a time when you felt something similar. Even if it wasn't the exact situation you're manifesting now, even if it was years ago, even if it was just for a moment, remember it. Remember what it felt like. Let your body remember. Let your emotions remember. And then take that feeling and apply it to your current desire. You're not creating a new feeling from nothing. You're recalling a feeling you've had before and using it as a bridge to your desired state. For instance, if you're trying to feel financially secure, but you've never had much money, remember a time when you felt secure about something else. Maybe there was a moment when you felt emotionally secure or physically safe or certain about an outcome. Remember that feeling of security and then imagine applying that same quality of feeling to your finances. I feel about money the way I felt when. This works because feelings are not as specific as we think they are. The feeling of security is the same whether it's financial security or emotional security or physical security. The feeling of being loved is the same whether it comes from a romantic partner or a friend or a parent. The feeling of success is the same whether it's in business or art or relationships. So you can borrow feelings from one area of your life and apply them to another. You can use past feelings to generate present feelings, and those feelings once generated become the seed of your new reality. Now, as we truly come to the end of our time together, I want to speak to your heart, not to your mind, not to your intellect, but to that part of you that knows the truth beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond even understanding. Deep within you, beneath all the layers of conditioning and forgetting and believing yourself to be small, there is a knowing, a certainty, a memory of who you really are. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not a random collection of atoms that somehow became conscious. You are God. Deliberately limiting yourself, deliberately forgetting yourself, deliberately experiencing what it is to be human so that one day you could remember, and the joy of that remembering would be the culmination of everything. You chose to be here. You chose this life, this body, this time, these circumstances, not as punishment, not as test, but as adventure, as exploration, as the ultimate game of hide and seek, where you hid yourself so well that finding yourself would be the greatest discovery of all. And now you're finding yourself not all at once, not in one blinding revelation, but gradually, gently, through teachings like this, through experiences that show you your power, through moments when you successfully imagine something and watch it materialize. Each manifestation is not just you getting something you wanted, it's you remembering who you are. It's you discovering that you are the creator. It's you waking up from the dream of limitation into the reality of your infinite nature. This is sacred work you're doing. This is not just about manifesting a better job or more money or a relationship. This is about remembering your divinity. This is about recognizing that the kingdom of God is within you because you are the king. This is about knowing with certainty that you and the Father are one, that before Abraham was, I am, that you are the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, the creator of all things. And I know this sounds grandiose. I know it sounds like blasphemy to those who have been taught to grovel before God, to see themselves as unworthy sinners, to believe they are separate from the Creator. But it is not blasphemy. It is the truth. It is what Jesus tried to tell us when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." It is what the mystics throughout the ages have tried to communicate through symbol and parable. It is what you will discover for yourself as you continue this journey. For now, use what I've taught you practically. Assume your desired states. Persist in those assumptions. Watch them manifest in your world. Let each manifestation strengthen your faith. Let each success show you more clearly who you are and what you're capable of. Build your confidence. Build your certainty. Build your conscious relationship with your creative power. But know that this is all leading somewhere deeper. This is all preparation for the ultimate awakening. The day will come when you experience what I experienced, when you are born from above, when you see the vision, when you know without any doubt that you are God, and on that day, everything will make sense. All the struggles, all the searching, all the forgetting so you could remember, all of it will culminate in that one moment of knowing. And the joy of that knowing will be worth everything you went through to get there. But that day is for later. For now, you have work to do. Beautiful work, creative work, the work of consciously creating your world, the work of assuming states and watching them externalize, the work of remembering little by little what you forgot when you agreed to play at being human. So go now with my blessing. Go with the knowledge that you are not alone in this. Go with the certainty that the law is real and it works, and you can prove it to yourself. Go with faith in your own creative power. Go with love for yourself, for this journey, for the consciousness that you are. And remember, whenever you feel lost, whenever you doubt, whenever you forget what I've taught you tonight, return to this. Consciousness is the only reality. I am is God. Whatever you assume to be true becomes true. This is not philosophy. This is not belief. This is law, and the law never fails. You are the operant power. You are consciousness creating reality. You are God awake in human form. And now you know how to wield that power deliberately, consciously, lovingly. Use it wisely. Use it faithfully. Use it to create a life that brings you joy. And let each creation be a reminder of who you really are. I love you not as one person loves another, but as consciousness loves itself, as God loves God, as the infinite loves the infinite. Because we are one. We have always been one. We will always be one. And this truth that I teach, this power that I reveal, is not something I'm giving you. It's something you already have. It's something you've always had. I'm just reminding you. I'm just helping you remember. Now go create, manifest, become, and know that I am with you. Not as a separate being, but as the consciousness that we share, the I am that speaks through both of us, the eternal awareness that is all there is. You are never alone because you are all. You are never powerless because you are power itself. You are never limited because you are the infinite pretending for a little while to be finite. This is who you are. This is what you are. And now, at last, you remember. Go and be what you were created to be. God creating himself anew in every moment forever and ever, without end. Amen. Thank you.